This is my analysis on the gold market. Short-term, potential range trading ahead. This is the short-term analysis in gold. This is a cycle analysis chart on gold. We're looking at a daily chart. And what I want you to see that we have on here are several of our own indicators, some proprietary. So there indicators that we have on here are what we call our directional momentum. That's the slim ribbon, which you see right in over here. And also our slim ribbon PO, which is on the bottom, which is essentially a signal indicator telling us when momentum is resuming in one direction or the other. Also, we have in here our support resistance levels, and the on the bottom, these cycle brackets show us the energetic movements in the market, and up here, these lines show you the actual movement in the cycle. In other words, how the individual cycle resolved itself and the information that we get from those cycles. So what we're looking at right here, as you could see, is that there was a downtrend in the gold market. As this was a lower low right here, we call that a negatively configured cycle. This was a lower low here, and this was a lower low here. So this was defining your downtrend. And each one of these rallies, as you could see, came up into the resistance level and then turned to the downside. And once they get under the key level of the previous low, they're likely to extend in towards the time frame of when the bottom comes in the next cycle. You see that also right over here. These yellow areas are the periods of risk where there is a strong likelihood of a decline because you have multiple cycles moving to the downside, as you see right here and here. Now there was a change in here as you saw this downtrend right there, and it then became an uptrend. And what you saw in here as the cycle here bottomed very much on time, as we expected, that this cycle right in here didn't have a lot of time left to have a correction because it was very late. We'd call this a right-hand translation. This area right over here, see that vertical line and that vertical line, these are cycle lines, which give us the timing that we expect the low to come. It's on either side of the ideal bottom by some number of bars, 3-4 bars or so. And then the bottom comes here on that hammer that you could see that formed. And the slim ribbon, which was positive right in here, stayed positive as it hit the support buy zone and then began to move up again. So this was a very positive occurrence where you had this configuration and translation of this cycle so positive. The market then moved up, and the expectation was that it would surpass that peak, and it already did that, as you can see. Now pulling back here, as this news came out of higher wage inflation on Friday, on December 2nd, and the question is, well, where are we headed now? Let's first take a little bit another look, looking back at the indicator, the slim ribbon PO. And you can see in here where the slim ribbon was negative. In other words, it was configuring to the downside. And the slim ribbon PO was giving you signals of downside resumption here and here and here. You could see that. Then when you got over here and the momentum turned green and you had positive conditions, then it changed. And when this cycle bottom came, you actually can see a bullish resumption of momentum on the upside with that green upside arrow. And momentum is still positive in here. Now, for the weekly chart, which I'm not going to show you, the intermediate momentum is also positive. So when you get into a period where you have positive momentum on multiple time frames, then you get into a period where the upside is much more likely than the downside. So we're getting this pullback right in here. And our target was getting up to maybe 1840, 1845. And up over here is a major resistance up there at 1845. There also are supports in here that come in, and these are minor supports because they're built off of the minor cycle right in here. And you could see the slim ribbon often gives support or resistance. You saw that all through here where it gave resistance. So if it continued to pull back, it's likely that the minor support would hold it. And we call that a buy zone because we have upside momentum and upside configurations that say it's not likely to get under that zone. So what that tells us is because there is some big weekly resistance above, you can see that zone up there from 845 up here to about 1898. That's a big, thick resistance area. It's likely to have a problem getting through that for now. There's also an older cycle peak right over there at around 1840. So that 1840, 1845 looks formidable right now on the upside. At the same time, with the slim ribbon and momentum configurations positive, and this buy zone right over here, it is very unlikely to get under that level at about 1767. So what that does is it defines a range for us in here. And that's really where we think we are right now in this gold market, uh, whereas the stock market is digesting what was a more dovish tone out of Powell, and at the same time looking at hot inflation as far as wage inflation goes. Well, that's likely to help the stock market also be in a range, and we think that this market right over here, the gold market, is going to be in a range also, as defined right in here by these minor supports and these very significant resistances. Of course, you can decide how you want to trade that in what we think is this range. That might be good information for people that trade strangles or straddles. Also could be good information for, I think the bullish side of this is more correct. So if it got into these buy zones here, then I think it would be moving to the upside. Note the timing in here. This is silver, which calls for correction down into mid-December. This is the gold market right here on the minor cycle that calls for a correction down into about the third week of December. So this could be a choppy area right in here as it's in the range and ultimately get into these buy zones here, maybe mid to third week of December, and then getting ready to move up again based on this. So the look in here is really overall positive. So I have a positive bias, a buy zone in there for that, and at the same time, a defined range on the short term here for gold. I hope you thought that was extremely informative.